Welcome to today's webinar on accessing services that we're calling From Overwhelmed to Informed. The Alzheimer Society of B.C. would like to respectfully acknowledge that it operates on the traditional territories of Indigenous people across the province. Our provincial office is located on the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, with regional resource centers located on traditional territories in all regions of BC. My fellow presenters, today the three of us are presenting from New Westminster, Port Moody, and Surrey, which are the territories of other Coast Salish peoples, the Kikite, Kutsi, Coquitlam, and Semiahmoo peoples. We make this acknowledgement to draw attention to the fact that the Alzheimer Society of BC's vision for a dementia-friendly province will only be possible through ensuring that everyone living on these lands has access to support that is culturally safe, barrier-free, and free from racism.
Thanks, Lori. Today we're speaking about moving from feeling overwhelmed to feeling informed through accessing formal support services. We'll talk about several types, mostly focusing on those that you might use closer to the beginning and middle stages, and even more specifically, the formal support services being offered through BC Health. We have other workshops with information about other supports and services, planning, and long-term care. Some recordings can be found linked on the helpful resources document that we'll share in the chat box throughout today's session. You'll hear us regularly encourage you to call the First Link Dementia Helpline. That's an excellent starting point for further information and to register for other workshops. One of our past workshop participants said this, accepting help made all the difference for us, and accepting help might make all the difference for you too. We want to make sure that we're giving you the information that you're looking for. So to help us, could you please answer this question in the chat box? What is one word to describe what you hope to learn today? So if you need to write more than one word, that's totally okay. We will try to ensure that we answer your questions, or we'll redirect you to that First Link Dementia Helpline where our colleagues can better discuss anything outside the scope of today's presentation. I'm seeing a lot of words coming in. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We are sharing information that's applicable at a provincial level today, as set out by the Ministry of Health. No region-specific differences will be discussed. These are best addressed with a case manager or other health authority contact. As an example, if you're hoping to learn exactly how to connect with a case manager in your specific community, we won't be able to go into that kind of detail, but we will be showing you how to find information through our website or by calling the Dementia Helpline. So, go ahead, Flourish.
Yeah. So while you're answering the questions, I could already see the responses in the chat. I'll introduce myself and the other presenters today. So my name is Flourish Waje. I'm a support and education coordinator in our Fraser region. And with me today are Gwen Polakowski. She's the provincial coordinator in the Education Development Department. And we also have Lori Kelly. She's the provincial coordinator in our program operations department. Also helping in the background answering the chat box is Michael Penny. He's the programming coordinator for the interior region. So we are delighted to be with you today. So, okay. Michael, what's coming up in the chat box? Are there any themes that you notice or things you want to highlight?
Definitely responses to Gwen's prompt. A lot of people, a lot of different answers, connection, support, access, patience.
Yeah, yeah. Those are major themes that we will try to talk about. And again, just to remind you, if we don't speak on something specific to your needs, we have our first link, dementia helpline available.
Thanks, Flourish. And thanks everyone for sharing your comments in the chat box for us. We really appreciate that. There are 5 types of supports or areas of resources that you're most likely to find helpful. And you can see them here on the screen. There's diagnosis and treatment. There are community supports for information, emotional support, and learning. There are formal supports from the health authority and private or family funded healthcare providers. There are informal supports from your friends and family, and then there's legal and financial planning supports as well. So today, you'll see from the one circle that we've really highlighted, we're going to focus on the formal supports from the health authority and private or family funded healthcare providers. In the accessing services in person and online workshops, you can also learn more about community supports and informal supports. And in particular, you'll find the First Link Dementia Helpline to be a really excellent resource. We'll be sharing the phone number for the First Link Dementia Helpline later, and it's listed at the bottom of the helpful resources sheet that will be shared with you through the chat box. And through that helpline, you can call and get so much more information. However, diagnosis and treatment and financial and legal planning are also important things to consider. And if you're interested in learning about these, we recommend that you consider registering for a family caregiver series. Before we go further, I'm hoping we can get to know each other and our starting places in our first activity. So we're going to try a poll. So this is kind of a fun activity for us. Let's see how it goes. So we'll bring up the first poll. Oh, there it is. Happy to see that. Yay, Lori. What I'd like you to do is to see the question and answer it. Now, this should be a pop-up on your screen. If you have pop-up enabled, if you don't see it, I'll read the question for you and we'll give you a little time to answer and you can put the points in the chat box. So the question is the person that you're caring for receiving any healthcare services or supports yet? And we'd like you to check all the sources of supports that you're receiving. So you can check as many as you like. Okay, it'll just take a second for the poll results to come in. How's it going, Lori and Michael? Are you seeing poll results as people consider their options?
Yeah, I can see the answers coming in.
Okay.
Oops.
Oh, here I'm chatting away and I muted myself because I had to cough earlier. Oh dear. All right, I'll just give it 5 more seconds. I had a really robust response.
3, 2.
There we go.
Oh,
I
look at
should be
those.
sharing.
Isn't this interesting? So, a very large percentage of diagnosis and treatment from a doctor or clinic. Okay, and then lots of informal help from family and friends, 45%. That's great to see that. Community supports like Alzheimer Society of B.C, 29%. And then formal services, 27%. Yeah, so hopefully we can give you a lot more information about that. And then 23% of you said none. So my person's not receiving any healthcare services or supports for dementia yet. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Over to you, Lori.
All right, stop sharing the poll. So, a big part of actually accessing the various services available is acknowledging that we need some help. Barack Obama said, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It shows you have the courage to admit when you don't know something and to learn something new. From the poll results, you can see that today's group have accessed a variety of services already. Good for you. And we really hope that we're going to give something to everyone, give you even more places to reach out and ask for some help. Now, we're going to bounce in and out of the slides a bit as we go through this presentation. It's sometimes nice to have some information on screen, and if that's the case, we'll share a slide. All the information we have is listed in the helpful resources, and you can always come back to this recording that'll be available in about a week if you miss anything. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing and we'll just discuss our topic.
Thanks, Lori. So, Flourish, a kind of longish question is coming your way. All right. So, I am certain that the topic of accessing services comes up a lot when you speak with care partners of people living with dementia. It's really important, right? So, for example, I know that there are so many issues from, the idea of privacy to preserving the dignity of a person who's living with dementia. And then even more logistical things like getting approved by a health authority. So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that people have when they're trying to get those formal services and supports in place, either for a person living with dementia or for themselves as care partners?
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting those things. Accessing services is quite challenging for a lot of families and individuals seeking to access formal supports. The main challenges that come up are connecting to the health authority services, getting an assessment, and meeting the eligibility requirements. Some people give up after the first roadblock. It can be quite discouraging not getting your needs met right away or just feeling quite frustrated by the healthcare system. But one thing I encourage is polite persistence, which is respectfully continuing conversations about your concerns and advocating for your needs with healthcare providers and services. Accessing formal support services has its challenges, but advocating for yourself or the needs of your person can make a difference. In our helpful resources document, you'll find advocacy resources that you might find helpful. The link to that document can be found in the chat. Michael, if you can share that again now, that'd be great. So, as we think about getting supports in place, it's helpful to know the role of health authorities and how to communicate effectively with them. British Columbia has 5 regional health authorities that deliver healthcare services within their geographical regions. So there are Northern, Interior, Fraser, Vancouver Coastal, and Island Health. There are also 2 provincial health authorities that provide coordination and specialized services to the 5 regional health authorities. These are the First Nations Health Authority. They aim to provide more equitable and culturally appropriate services to First Nations peoples. And there's the Provincial Health Services Authority, which plans and coordinates the delivery of provincial programs and specialized services. Health authorities receive funding from the Ministry of Health to provide services to people who are residents of the province. The Ministry of Health decides what services will be provided and subsidized. So, health authorities provide services as well as they can, depending on their constraints and the urgency of people's needs. Some needs will be more urgent than others. Health authorities have several services that are often used by people living with dementia and their care partners. Okay, so let's check in with our attendees. Let's see what health authority each of them is in. We're going to get you to answer another poll. This one's just 30 seconds this time because it's just one click. So, Lori, if you could share the poll, please choose the health authority that serves the area you live in. As you can see on the slide and in the poll, there are 5 health authorities. You can look at the map a little bit to kind of help you out there. Just give you some time to answer this. So the question is, which health authority are you in? There are 5 health authorities available, but if you don't know, it's also okay to click that option. Yeah.
All, all right. I stuck with your 30 seconds flourish. So
Sorry if you didn't miss out, if you didn't meet the cut, but here we can see 29% are coming from Fraser Health Authority. That's good. Okay. We have 23% from Interior Health Authority, 27 from Island Health. Okay, we have 5% coming from Northern Health and about 17% coming from Vancouver Coastal. Okay, seems like most people know where they're coming from, so that's good to know. Thank you everyone for answering the poll. Lori, please can you show the pages from our website developed to highlight the services available in each area?
yes, I can. Just before I pop off this slide, just if anybody wants to take a look at that QR code, we have a new page called Find Support in BC, and it will bring you, this QR code will bring you to this page. Um, whoops, just gonna, there we go. So on the Alzheimer Society of BC website, which this is, we have, whoops, sorry guys, trying to manage my notes and all of that kind of stuff. On the Alzheimer Society of BC, if you go to Help and Support and click Find Support in BC, it will bring you to the page that I mentioned. You can also just type alzbc.org /support BC, alzbc.org/support BC, and it'll bring you to our support page. You'll find a bunch of information on this page. It'll have links to all of our different offices and the regional supports that we offer. And so I want to look at one of the regions. Let's look at Vancouver Island. If you click Vancouver Island, it will bring you to a page that has supports a bunch of information related to Vancouver Island, to that particular area of the province. Regional dementia programming. So if you're interested in other of our supports and programs, this is an excellent place to see what's available near you. Quick link to the First Link Dementia Helpline and some other information. The one we want to highlight is Vancouver Island Helpful Links, because one of the questions we get a lot is, how do I connect with the health authority in my region? And so, although we are not part of the health authority, not part of the government, we want to make it really easy for you guys to find the information. And so we've created for each of the each of our regional pages, this link called Helpful Resources. It has a little blurb about your particular or that particular region's health authority, community health services, or uh, uh, community supports from the health authority. It has that number, and our local community resource lists. So hopefully it provides you a way to to quickly and easily navigate around.
Lori, that's a really great resource. Thank you so much for sharing it with everyone. It's such a time saver to just be able to go to the website and get to those links. Um, we've talked a little bit about the health authorities. Now let's get into health services. So before we get into that, we want to ask you to name one type of health support that is available for dementia that you have used perhaps with the person that you care for or for yourself as a caregiver. Um, Name one type of health support that you have accessed from your health authority's community care. So please go ahead and just type your answer into the chat box. It's always fun to see these answers come rolling in. Great. I can see those coming in right now. Michael, do you want to do a little summary for us as they come in?
Sure. Let me see. Help with bathing, day program for older adults, help with showers, caregiver support program, bridges, bathing, day program, nothing older adult mental health clinic, your information Zoom calls, and social worker and psychologist and psychiatrist coming up. Someone mentioned respite. There's more coming through. Private OT rehab services for safety, walking, exercising. There's medication reminders, counseling, and respite. Another person has offered nothing. And early dementia clinic in St. Paul's Hospital, Alzheimer Society workshop, home support. Another person has offered nothing, as no ADL requirements, just cognitive issues. Minds in motion, cognitive testing, and housekeeping.
Oh, good range of things.
Yeah, I was just thinking an amazing range coming up there. Thank you so much, everyone.
If anyone else, sorry to interrupt, Gwen, I just wanted to pop in and see if anyone doesn't know what ADL, somebody mentioned ADLs, that's activities of daily living. And when we talk about, in a little bit, when we talk about qualifying, we'll share a bit more about that.
Good catch, Lori, to talk about ADLs. Yeah, activities of daily living. Thank you so much for adding that. From Lori, we're going to pop over to Flourish. And Flourish, can you please talk about four of the main supports that are publicly subsidized?
Sure. As you can see on the slide, one main support that people living with dementia may access is home support. This means personal assistance at home, for example, for things like eating, dressing, bathing, and using the toilet. There are three other publicly subsidized health supports for dementia that are often used by people living with dementia and their care partners. They are Adult Day Program, which was mentioned in the chat a few times, a program that offers health services, recreational activities, and socializing for a few hours. There's respite care. This may be provided as a short stay in long term care facilities, hospices, or other community care settings. Your case manager will be able to let you know what is available to you based on your situation. Another way Another way that care partners get respite is when their person is attending adult day program for a few hours and also when they receive help at home through home support. Lastly, we there is the long-term care option as support as well. It's 24-hour care in a supportive environment for people with care needs too complex for home support or assisted living. This support is beyond what we'll cover in this workshop, but we have several other workshops on considering the transition to long term care, preparing and adjusting to long term care, enhancing enhancing visits to friends and family members who are living in long term care and working with the care team. You can view those recordings at alzbc.org/on-demand or call our First Link Dementia Helpline to find out when these workshops might be offered near you.
So great timing. A question just came in. When do I apply for a caseworker? At what stage? So, really good timing, Flourish. If somebody
Mhm.
wants to arrange any of these publicly subsidized services, how do they go about it?
Oh, for sure. Happy to answer that as well. If you are eligible, a care coordinator, so that could be a nurse or a case manager, will meet with you and the person living with dementia to understand if you qualify for the services, what help is needed, and any costs involved. Please note that care coordination is nuanced and it does look different in different health authorities. Um, you will need to bring or have with you these important documents, such as your BC services card, list of medications, doctor's name and contact information, the emergency contact, and income details for the fee assessment. After the assessment, a personalized care plan will be created if needed. Services may begin right away, or you may have to wait depending on the situation.
Getting health authority supports means you have to meet eligibility criteria, and the criteria include being a Canadian citizen, a permanent residence, or being issued a temporary resident permit by the Federal Minister of Immigration. BC residency, so living here in BC for at least 3 months. And this, I think, really helps to answer your question, Karen. Inability to function independently because of care needs from a life limiting illness, such as Alzheimer's disease or other dementias. Part of this will be determined by an assessment by the health authority, and it will include an income assessment to determine the fees. There's a sliding scale. As Flourish mentioned, please note there's often wait times for public supports, and the length of time will vary by region. You can contact your case manager or the local health authority number for more information about wait times in your community and about your eligibility. The amount of subsidization or costs that the government pays for you will depend on your income. So, we're going to talk quite a bit more about that inability to function independently and how you can, um, as the person who is talking to the health authority, how you can get that across well.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as easy as it sounds. So, although it does sound pretty straightforward, eligibility can become harder to decide because a care partner must be able to describe the daily life needs of the person with dementia. Sometimes it is harder than expected. When you contact the health authority, clearly describing the person living with dementia is having difficulty with tasks like dressing, eating, using the toilet, and bathing will help the case manager to determine if an assessment is needed. But sometimes we don't really realize what is really being asked of us. So let's think about an example such as bathing or showering in the context of answering a health authority staff person's eligibility question. Their question being something like, can the person bathe or shower by themselves? So we often take personal care for granted. Showering, brushing our teeth, grooming feels automatic, but these tasks actually require significant brain power. Let's try to break down what's involved in taking a shower. First, the brain must decide it's time to shower. This involves orienting to time and space, evaluating the day, and checking if there's enough time to do that task. Also, memory plays a role. We need to recall if we've already showered and where the shower is. Then it comes into initiation, right? If we want to shower, we need the brain to activate that action. This function is often impaired in dementia. And once we begin, we navigate a series of steps. To undress, we have to turn on and adjust the water, then also locate soap and shampoo, enter the shower safely, balance and move our bodies, wash and rinse appropriately, decide when we're done, and then exit safely, towel off, and move on. Each step involves decision making, coordination, and memory. And this highlights how complex personal care really is. What we might think of as a simple task all of a sudden looks quite exhausting when broken down into all of its separate actions. These actions require a brain that can identify and recognize the items in the bathroom and know how to use them. It's possible to not recognize the hot and cold water taps, or to not differentiate between soap and hair conditioner, or to put the wrong end of the toothbrush in our mouth. Those are many things that can go wrong in the task of showering or bathing.
Thanks, Flourish. That really does show how many steps are involved with bathing or showering that we don't normally think about. And that's important because when you're asked, does your person shower or bathe by themselves? You may be thinking of them physically in the shower or bath and washing themselves, but not be thinking of all the other steps that perhaps you are providing assistance with. So now that Flourish has described the very many steps of bathing, I'd like we'd like you guys to consider the steps of eating or staying nourished. As mentioned, to prove eligibility for home support, a care partner must be able to describe the daily life needs, that's those ADLs, activities of daily living, the daily life needs of a person living with dementia. Often the question is asked whether your person feeds themselves. And when we hear that, many of us think of the act of raising spoon or chopsticks to mouth and think, yes, of course they feed themselves. But let's go a step further. Using the chat box, list any one of the other steps you think are part of feeding yourself. That is, just as Flourish broke down bathing, think of the steps involved with eating to get a sense of all the subtasks that are involved, and to think about what might be missed by a person living with dementia. I do see some good ones coming in. Yeah, I see already. I was going to ask, what about shopping? And that's already been covered. Um, Storing, I see somebody's nailed them all. And also, yes, that sometimes people don't remember to eat. Michael, what other things are you seeing in the chat box? Anything that I've missed?
Making sure the food is safe to eat.
Uh,
Re- dishes to clean up, and
I see one that I really like there. Leanne says that can often see why she just goes with what's easiest, eating out. Yeah, once we begin to recognize how hard our brains have to work, how much we take for granted with even relatively simple tasks, it we begin to understand some of the choices that perhaps our person living with dementia is making.
Yeah.
Overeating, undereating. Yeah.
So interesting to see this. Linda mentions nutrition is the biggest one I'm dealing with, not just ice cream, right? So that's a really interesting comment. Thanks, Linda. And thanks everyone else for sharing these. Like, wow, so interesting. And yeah, such a beautiful range of responses to show really how complex it is to nourish ourselves. So, when you contact the health authority, clearly describing how a person living with dementia is having difficulty with tasks like, nourishing themselves, like bathing or showering, like dressing themselves as well. All of this helps you to communicate to the case manager or the health authority rep. Um, the information they need to determine um, if an assessment is needed. Flourish, do you have other suggestions for, communicating that and getting an accurate home assessment in a home visit?
Yes, actually, there are four important considerations involved in getting an accurate assessment during a health authority home visit. First, before the assessment, journal your observations about the abilities of your person living with dementia. It's a good practice to write down what you have noticed so that you can provide this information to the care team members. Secondly, during the assessment, step back. Allow the person to show their abilities without assistance. For example, the assessor may ask for a glass of water. This is where you have to leave your good hosting skills at the door, which can be very hard. But allow the person living with dementia to respond as it can be used as part of the assessment. Next, expect the symptoms to vary. Know that there will be good days and bad days. A person living with dementia may perform better than usual during an assessment. I've heard that often as well, so it is something that comes up. And lastly, seek out a quiet place to talk with a case manager, to share observations or concerns, or make arrangements if needed. Please aim to do this discussion separately so that you're not speaking in front of the person living with dementia. So these four considerations can help you get an accurate assessment.
Thanks, Flourish. That force things makes it much easier. Um, what about suggestions for making the most of the meeting?
Mm, yeah, you'll get to know the staff in the care team over time. And with that, that'll help you learn the best ways of communicating with each care staff member. So overall, it'll help build an effective relationship. But we do have four strategies as well that can help you out. Firstly, and this is a very critical one, write things down. So create a list of topics that you want to discuss with the health authority prior to a meeting or appointment. So I know sometimes we're so frazzled and so many things come in on a daily basis. And so writing things down in the moment as they happen and compiling that list before the care staff member shows up can really help you focus on the most important things for that meeting. You want to write notes during the meeting and after the meeting as well. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Keep a binder of resources and conversations you've had. Make sure that you have the name and the phone number of the care team members who do the assessments. So you can
Mhm.
confirm their names and phone numbers verbally with them before they leave. So in case you need to reach out to them, you know who you're reaching out to and how to reach out to them. Secondly, please be honest. Share the reality of the situation and the impact on you and the person's mental and physical well-being. Sometimes we want to protect, the dignity of the person Or, for ourselves, we might be in denial at one point, but being honest can help the care team know how to meet you where you're at. Thirdly, stay curious and open minded about what services will be best to meet your needs. So, we encourage to avoid making assumptions about what will work and what won't work. You may learn something new that you hadn't thought of or experience a different outcome than expected. So, please manage your expectations to avoid disappointment. You could also have a friend or a family member present if possible, so you could double the curiosity. And lastly, we suggest that you focus on the issues and concerns that the person has and be open to different ways of addressing those concerns. We may have a specific idea of how we want the meeting to go, but keeping an open mind allows for collaboration. So, these are the four strategies that will help you make the most of these meetings.
So let's think about an average person combining the health authority supports with other supports that are available from friends and family or community organizations or private companies. A person may require more or different supports than just those that are available through the health authority. So let's discuss this example. So on the slide, you can see Maya. So Maya is living with dementia. She still lives independently in her home, but she requires some support. And she gets this support from the health authority once a week. During this time, she takes a shower and she receives some other help to ensure that she's taking her medications. Um, we have a question then for all of you at this point. If Maya lived in your community, what other supports do you think would be helpful for her? So she has that one daily visit a week, but what other things could be good in Maya's world? She lives alone. Yeah, thanks for that question. Okay, yeah, adult day program. Okay, friendly visiting. Yeah, socialization with others. Community programs like walking. Yeah, brilliant. Groceries. Attending these webinars. Yeah, food prep. Social, neighbors, family. Yeah, I know in my neighborhood, our local pharmacy is totally open to delivering prescriptions. So that's one that, comes to mind for me is that, if I needed something, the pharmacy would just deliver it to to our home. Yeah. Someone else mentioned groceries. Yeah, there's lots of delivery for that
And
as well.
I see bubble pack meds. Somebody mentioned that. My mom's pharmacy would not only deliver, but would do them up in the bubble packs and deliver those to her. And that was really helpful.
Yeah, it's great. Anything else in the comments standing out for you, Lori or Flourish, that you want to mention?
Friendly visiting. I don't know if you mentioned that.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
another one
good.
is transportation for sure, getting around.
Handy dart. Yep, somebody just put it in. That's great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Taxi saver, awesome.
Great. Yeah, it's good to read all those ideas shared in the chat box. Thank you, everyone, for uh, brainstorming those things. Now, we'd like to talk a little bit about accessing private services. There are numerous private and nonprofit organizations that can offer supports to supplement services that a health authority provides. Many are listed on BC 211 and Route 65 websites. If you choose a family funded or private company for companion care or home support help, here are some tips. Ask how the company screens and trains employees. Ask about insurance that the company carries. Read any contract carefully and make sure that the fees and schedules are included. You can check the Route65.ca website from the BC Care Providers Association. It lists operators that have been certified because of demonstrated policies, practices, and procedures, especially related to privacy, safety, emergency preparedness, and client satisfaction. It's also possible to hire a home support worker directly, but that can come with risks. The tips shown on this slide are from the Seniors First BC Advocacy Guide. It's linked in the helpful resources document as well that we've been sharing throughout this presentation. Also, Alzheimer Society of BC offers a number of programs and services through our First Link Dementia Support. While I'm talking about these, in the chat box, can you let us know which of these services that you have accessed from Alzheimer's Society of BC? Um, yeah, just type them in as I continue. So, our First Link Dementia Helpline provides phone support and information for anyone affected by dementia or memory loss. Okay. Before I continue, I'm just gonna look through. Okay, so we got Minds in Motion. We have First Link. Oh, Minds in Motion is coming up a lot. Caregiver support group. Great. Coffee and chat. All except coffee and chat. Okay. Helpline. Yes. Education. Someone just said all of them. Yay. So happy to hear that. First Link calls every 3 months to check in. Amazing. Yeah. I'll be describing a little bit more about each one. So, as I was saying with the First Link Dementia Helpline, the lines are open Mondays through Fridays. We provide support in multiple languages as well. So, we will give that number at the end of today's session. They're also listed at the bottom of the helpful resources, linked in the chat. We also proactively reach out with one-to-one support calls for people who live, whose lives are affected by dementia. I know some people mentioned that call every few months, checking in. These calls can be requested through the dementia helpline, or your healthcare provider may refer you to us directly. So our staff reaches out at 3, 6, 12, and 18 months, and then 6 months after if needed. We also have in person and online support groups for people who are living with early stages of dementia. Other support groups are focused on caregiver needs. I also saw that come up a few times too with the support group. Next, we have a wide range of dementia education from brain health to progression of dementia. We offer in-person, live, online, and webinar education sessions. You can find these recordings of most of the topics on our on-demand webpage at alzbc.org/on-demand. We also have Minds in Motion, which is a fitness and social program for care partners and people experiencing early symptoms of dementia. A similar program to that is called Coffee and Chat. And so Coffee and Chat primarily focuses on socialization.
All right. Wow. I'm sorry, I was just quickly trying to go through and capture some questions and things. So I'm still seeing a few questions, so I've jotted them down, and I know, Michael, we're going to have some time to answer those at the end. Okay, we had two objectives for this webinar. I think we've covered them. We hoped to help you all understand formal services and the health authorities' role. And we also wanted to share ways that public and private services can work together. Do you think that we've met our objectives? And if not, what did we miss? As you can see, it's been a very robust chat box. And so we may well have missed a comment or question that you had. So if you're finding that we missed it, please enter it again. Draw our attention. And if you have other questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat box. I know we're getting close to 3 o'clock. Flourish, we're hoping you're going to be able to stay to answer these.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Happy to help.
Yeah, we've had some questions arise earlier in the workshop. So maybe we can start with some of those earlier questions that came up. Okay.
Um, there are a couple that I wrote down, and then Michael, please you fill in if there's other ones. Somebody mentioned, is there a checklist that can be filled out before an assessment? Great, great question. Um, in the helpful resources document, the very first link is to a document that actually on the back side of it is exactly that. It's a checklist of things that you can um, go through to, it's really for a whole variety of things, but it can help you specifically with that. There is also on our website, just going to search checklist. And while that's searching, um, I know that there is on our website a checklist for going to the doctor. So, personal symptom checklist. Um, there's a few things. So I'll look for that while we're talking and post it in the chat. You may find we've already covered it. Flourish, Gwen, can you think off the top of your head? Is there a good checklist that can be used before an assessment?
Nothing is coming to mind right now, but that is a really great idea for us to create something. If
Yeah,
we can't find it,
yeah.
then we will act on it and try to come up with something that would meet that need. So thank you so much. But Flourish, maybe you know of something?
I think the one that is provided through the helpful resources is a great place to start. I do think I agree with you, Lori, that there might be one for just like a doctor's visit. I saw in the chat that someone was saying, general journaling about the regular day-to-day life is sounds quite vague, and they're trying to see if like what are some other details that they could keep track of. So I think that checklist, whether the one in the helpful resources guide or the one that hopefully we can find in the website, you could create your own sort of list and columns, right? Where, today maybe you just do at the end of the day, oh, any changes you've noticed with maybe emotions and then behavior and abilities, right? And you can break that down too. Okay, how's dressing going, or how's cooking going, right? And over time, you could see the changes. It doesn't have to be every day, whatever works for you. But having those categories can maybe make it easier to look back on and say, okay, in August, they were pretty good with, opening the can of soup and eating that on a regular basis, but started to notice a decline in their, coordination and abilities come September, those type of things. And that could give your doctor a good idea, or even any of the health authority staff. Okay, things are progressing. Okay, what are the needs that we want to explore now?
That's great. I there's two other things that I had written down. One I noticed was a comment. Catherine said something that just resonated so strongly with me. She said that she found that she just went with the flow and wasn't really aware of how much she was doing to support. And so she ended up, it was very late when she asked for help and had an assessment. So I really resonate with that, Catherine, and I'm sure that lots of people in the chat resonated with that as well. Um, and I do hope that one of the things, the outcomes from today, is that you can think about what are you doing to support your person. What would happen if, and awful to think about, but a good way to kind of think about how much you're doing to support the person's daily living is think about what would happen if something happened and you had to go into the hospital unexpectedly. And so, what would need to be backfilled from you to continue to help your person live well? So that's one. Um, and the other comment, somebody said their person doesn't yet qualify, her husband doesn't yet qualify, but they're really struggling with how to find a case manager. So I hope again that the links that we shared, so if you go to our website and go to help and support and find your way to your region, that you'll be able to find the links with the phone numbers to your local health authority. And the other and easier way is that you may just want to call our First Link Dementia helpline. Michael, maybe you could drop the contact information for the helpline into the chat. Our colleagues on the helpline are wonderful source of source of help and resources, and can quickly help you find how to connect to your health authority. Are there other questions, Michael, that are coming up?
Yeah, I did have 3 other questions written down here.
Great.
First one from Win. What does coffee and chat look like?
Oh, good question. Flourish, I'm going to toss that one over to you as the
Uh, yes, it's not under my purview, but I can briefly describe what I understand it to be. And yeah, you might also want to call our First Link Dementia Helpline to see how it's coordinated in your area. The understanding is that you come in with your person living with dementia and you split into 2 groups. So you do a coffee and chat of those who are caregivers, and then there's also a chat happening at the same time with the person who is living with dementia. So it's a great way to socialize and have that time of connection over coffee, or whatever drinks are available at that time, just to get to understand the challenges that others are going through. But yeah, I think that's the general gist. Again, you can learn more by calling our First Link Dementia helpline.
And my understanding as well is that it also really does depend on the group of people that are attending. Sometimes may have a group of people that actually want to talk about dementia. Often that's not what they want to talk about. So different from a support group,
Hmm.
coffee and chat is meant to be much more just a time of socialization. And yeah, so sorry, I'm looking. Oh, home health gave the general line for BC. Thank you very much, Jagnu. And somebody said the All About Me booklet they found very, very helpful. I agree. It's a wonderful resource. So you can always look on our website um, or call the First Link Dementia helpline for that.
Yeah, before we go into another question, I did see while you were talking about, if you as a care person were not to be available to support the person, what were the things that need to be filled? And some people did say, oh, everything. um, and I thought could be a good time to bring up the challenge of caregiver burnout that can happen, right?
Yes.
So, it it is a challenge and a change in responsibility when someone you're caring for starts to lose their ability and you start to take on more and more. Um, Even if the support from the health authority isn't where you're at right now, we always encourage building that system for yourself, however that looks like, which can involve informal supports. If you have friends, if you have families, if you have neighbors that could help with things. 'Cause I saw someone say they have so much they're doing at home, right? So it could be so hard just in the home alone, whether it's taking care of the gardening and then, just making sure the cleaning is done, outsourcing even those tasks, or having a family friend or family member come in to support you with those things can make a difference. Caregiver burnout can lead to illness as well, right? And it can cause a lot of people to feel frustrated in the caregiving journey overall. So, one thing that I always speak to caregivers about is just the importance of, self care and building that system so that burnout doesn't happen. And even if it is happening, reaching out, right? It's never too late to get that support that you need so that you could hopefully get back to a healthier place for yourself and the person you're caring for. So, I just thought it'd be a good time to bring that up.
Thanks, Flourish. That also makes me just further on that. I had mentioned that somebody had said that their person didn't qualify, but that they were struggling to find a case manager. And it's important to bring up further to what Flourish said, your own well-being counts as you may request extra support, respite, those kinds of services, even if perhaps your person is not either wanting them or qualifying for them. Um, it's important to talk to your doctor and talk to your case manager as well, where they are available. So talk to your health authority.
Yeah, that's really good because some people think it's only home support, right? And they're like, well, your ADLs, like we said, activities of daily living are still okay, but you still feel overwhelmed. That's why we talk about respite and adult day program. So they still get to socialize, get to connect with others with adult day program, which that is available as well as respite, right? And that's more for yourself as well to get that break that you need. So it's good to know that there's more beyond home support if you're thinking, well, they're not there yet, but I need help, right? There are other ways to get that help.
Michael, you mentioned a couple more.
Yep. Yes, I see a question from Maureen. Can you ask the private services if the personnel who come to the home have updated COVID vaccines?
Absolutely great question. Especially with private services, you can ask whatever you want, within reason, of course. But yes, when it comes to keeping you and your family safe, absolutely, I would suggest that nothing is out of bounds if they have updated COVID vaccines. If you, it might be um, good though to talk to when you're talking to arranging private care, to kind of have those questions down so that you can say to the person who is sending someone, this is really important to me. It's important that they understand. um, you can ask for someone who understands certain cultural practices, who perhaps knows how to do really nutritious vegetarian or vegan meals. Um, Absolutely, whether COVID vaccines are up to date. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I just want to add into that. That could also involve language, right? If you're wanting someone who speaks your person's language, um, I believe that you can ask about that as well. Um, I did notice someone
Private care,
mention,
yes.
yeah, someone mentioned that their person is adamant about not going to respite or adult day program. And that could be a challenge that we see often too, where, the person might be in denial of their diagnosis or lack insight as to where they are. So we often suggest, and this is more where you can call the First Link helpline to speak to someone directly, right, who can understand your specific situations and provide specific strategies that you could use for your situation. Overall, it can be a challenge to get into those supports from a place of they're resistant to it, but know that there are strategies out there that you could try um, to still hopefully get the care that you need and they need as well.
Yeah, sometimes it says, and as Flora said, you can go into it more specifically with our team on the dementia helpline, but some things it'll depend on your particular situation, but things like I really need to go and do some grocery shopping, particularly if it's a husband. Um, Often you may have a history of being able to say, you know what, I need a little time for myself. And if you don't have that history, maybe it's time to start. And so just even being honest and saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling tired. I have a friend visiting from out of town and I really want to go visit her on my own. Um, those kinds of things might help to make it easier for the person to accept support, just even asking. I remember years ago, we used to have a video. It was shot in the 80s with people with enormous glasses. So we don't have it anymore because it got very dated. But the person who was delivering the talk had been a social worker, and she talked about supporting someone whose husband had ALS and was quite advanced at this point and needed a lot of physical support. And the social worker was brave enough to sit down and say to the person with dementia or with ALS, your wife needs a break. She loves you and she wants to be able to support you, but she needs a break. Could you give her the gift of accepting support so that she can go for a walk with her friends? And that always struck me as so powerful and so brave. And what was lovely about it is that it did give the person who was the person who needed support, it gave them the power to say, yes, I want to give this gift to my wife. And I recognize that dementia is different. Nonetheless, most of us really appreciate being able to give someone something to someone else. And so one strategy might be simply saying, I need this break. And in order for me to feel comfortable, I need to know that you're safe. And therefore, I need to have someone visit you at the same time, or I need to be able to drop you off. So that's another strategy.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Michael, was there anything else?
Yeah, I see a new question has popped up in the chat, and that sparked some other questions and some conversation. But the first question was, it's so expensive, can you write off home care? And then someone had a follow-up question, does the disability tax credit apply to dementia?
I think I'm not sure about the first one, not sure about my colleagues. That I would suggest that you probably need to talk to a tax accountant or Canada Revenue Agency. And honestly, the Alzheimer Society, we've often called Canada Revenue Agency with questions about things. So it can take, especially closer to tax time, now should be not too bad, but honestly, it's well worth just calling them. But as to whether the disability credit applies, absolutely yes.
Mhm. Yes, it does apply. Like you said, it is important to maybe speak to someone to know the nitty-gritty of what it covers, right? Um, yeah, there is a program called CECL um, that we always talk about as well. It is Choices in Supports for Independent Living. It's provided by Fraser Health. I'm not so sure about other health authorities, but it is one where you have a little bit more control as to how you find your home support services. So you're basically the employer as the care partner that does the process, and the health authority helps you to pay them. So it's a system where I believe, has the link been, no, the link hasn't been provided, but you can just search up Cecil or Choices in Supports for Independent Living if that's something you want to explore. It's another way to get some support for those services that you really need. Oh, I see there's a different one for Coastal Health. It's still looks like Cecil, but it's spelled CECL, right? So that's another one to investigate, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Jean mentions there's a vehicle gas tax refund, all sorts of things. So there are lots and lots of supports available. And if you have questions about them, I encourage you to reach out to the First Link Dementia Helpline. And if there's no more questions coming forward right now,
I did see
Lori,
I do
one.
see
there's
Oh,
one
one.
more.
Yeah.
yeah,
We all want to answer it.
yeah.
Let me just read out the question. I think
Mhm.
we're all seeing it. I find it hard to find regularly scheduled breaks from caregiving. It is hard to get friends and family to commit to regularly scheduled visits. Any suggestions for help with that other than adult daycare?
I could start off. I would say there are other community programs available. Um, I forget the one I usually refer people to. I think it is Better at Home program, but there are other community services outside of Fraser Health that do things like friendly visits, right? So maybe volunteers or people come around to your home to also provide that. So it's a suggestion to look into what community organizations around you do that. So instead of only relying on friends and family, you could potentially have some other regular scheduled visits that you may not have to pay for. There are private care supports that do things like companioning that you could look into as well with the links that we provided with Route 65, BC 211. You can just search up companioning or companion services and you could find ways to get those visits and get also hopefully get a break for yourself during that time.
Can I add one more, Lori and Flourish? Just I heard a really brilliant one from one of Flourish's colleagues, and it was about, asking your friends and family for help. And the idea was to kind of look at your friends and family and think, what is it that they like to do? So if you have like a family member who really loves to cook, then see if you can tap them to help with cooking if you need that support, or if you need just a break from cooking a meal, or if they like to walk, then tap into that interest that they have, but to kind of analyze what it is that they would do anyway because they really enjoy it, and see if you can kind of leverage their interest in that activity. So just wanted to share that about sort of our informal supports. Back to you, Flourish.
I really like that, Gwen, and just want to point out in the helpful resources document, again, that very first link in the helpful resources is to a two-sided PDF. On the back of the, I guess it depends which way it prints for you. On one side of the document, there is the checklist that I mentioned, things to think about. And down at the very bottom is just an idea of some examples of things for a list that you can start to build called asking for help. And it's exactly what Gwen is talking about. You think about what you need, you think about who you might ask. And I go back to that Barack Obama quote. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And so just sometimes it's asking directly is the way that we need to move forward, because maybe people are just not getting the hint and we need to flat out ask.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Sometimes we think, oh, surely they know I need help with cleaning. They came to my house. It's oh, there's so many things I need help with, and it can build resentment rather than just, being outright and say, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Do you think you could help with this? Maybe when you come over for tea, and you can make it a shared activity if you want to join in, but at least you know that they are aware of your needs, and hopefully people step up to support where they can. So I'm just going to read this quote. It says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Getting help is key. So it is not realistic to think you can do everything on your own. Taking care of a person living with dementia and your own health will mean building a care team involving several supports. And when we mean care team, it's not just formal supports, all the things that we've talked about, even in answering questions. They're all a part of that support system. So while this session has focused on accessing services to support a person living with dementia, finding your own supports as a care partner is also important. We recommend taking the Family Caregiver series, as well as reviewing our community resource list. Um, our website also has resources. Just remember that you are not alone on this journey. We are here with you, and you can reach out to us through our First Link Dementia Helpline.
Whoops, I have to click on my mic. Here I am. And so we're at the end of today's presentation. So please continue to share any more questions or comments that you might have in the chat box. Or tell us, what was one key piece of information that really stood out for you today? Once you're done typing, take a few minutes to complete a short evaluation survey on today's session. Please, the link to this survey will be in the chat box. Michael's already got it there. Your feedback is really vital to us and helps us to improve our sessions as we go forward. I want to thank you in advance for sharing, your feedback with us in this survey. We invite you to stay connected with us and to others who share many of the same feelings that you have and experiences through phone calls with our staff, our support groups, other education workshops, and through Minds in Motion. All of our programs provide a safe space to share your questions, concerns, and experience.
So to register or find out more about other supports and programs, to ask further questions or discuss your individual situation, or just to call and talk to somebody else who really gets what your experience is, I really encourage you to reach out to our colleagues by calling the First Link Dementia Helpline. It's open Monday to Friday. English services are available in BC and I see Michael's posted it in the chat as well. Thank you. At 1-800-936-6033, and that's from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. English services are available in the Yukon, available from 10 to 8 Mountain Central Time. Our Chinese and South Asian helplines are available Monday to Friday, 9 to 4. Thank you again so much for your participation and for joining us.